Welcome back, folks, to another exciting edition of Let's Play Tyranny. As always, I'm your host, J2John Jeremy, and last we left off, we'd arrived here at the disfavored camp, and after speaking with a merchant who we decided that he was breaking the laws of the Overlord Kyros, had him executed for his failure. We're now making our way inside the camp to speak to anybody whom we may have forgotten to last go around. We've already spoken to Pentabor. We've got Rona here. Rona is the niece of the person at Pentabor. So, let's see if he has anything we want to buy. What might I do for you? See something you like? You know that if the disfavored suffer a merchant in their camps, that must be a man selling only the finest provisions and armaments. He points to his collection of shields, rations, satchels, wineskins, and other sundries. Take a look, and see if something interests you. Pentabor rubs his hands, eyes alight. Let's see if we can find something you might like. Brotherhood Stout. What's... Oh, that's just, like, food. Ooh, Sigil of Frost, core. What's this do? This scroll contains a magical core, which is used in spells that manipulate freezing energies. I'll take that. Cool. And now I will use said core for spell creation. Maybe not. Learn. Alright, learn new spell core, Sigil of Frost. Learn. Learned new spell accent, Sigil of Reaching Grasp. So now if I go to my core, I can say, hey, I want to use the Sigil of Frost core and the expression Sigil of Focused Intent with an accent on the range sigil, Reaching Grasp. This now gives us Frozen Grasp. Envelop a target in harsh winter cold, leaving them frozen for a time. Excellent. I'll go ahead and add that to my retinue of skills. I have an attribute point I need to use. We put it into my wits ability. Save that. And Verse here also has a point. I will put hers into quickness. Save that. Okay. Let's see. I have a talent point. Verse has a talent point, and Barrack has a talent point. Me first. We're going to put ours into magic here. Grant additional spell slots. We definitely want that. Save that. Thank you. Verse. Mocking Iron. Know your enemy. Yeah, know your enemy. Sounds excellent. And finally, Barrack. Sentinel or Punisher. Issue a mocking invitation challenging enemies to attack Barrack. Yeah, we want him to be our tank here. Sounds like a plan. Very good. All right. Let's see now. Who can we talk to here? Sevius. The bitter quip. Let's talk to Sevius. Tunon sends us the fire starter. I see how it is. Huffing with arms folded, the disfavored warrior bristles at your approach. He cranes his head to either side, cracking and popping the joints of his neck. I'd ask if you've come to take over command once more, but having not been trusted with one since the Vellum Citadel, you can't rob what I don't have. You should jaw with Iron Marshal if you want to talk substance. I'm just managing the patrols here. She and Ash are giving direction. What is it you need? I overheard you asking that Earthshaker where the reinforcements have gone. Is there a problem? That's right, the reinforcements were trapped on the other side. I'm afraid so. Radix, the head of the Earthshakers, was supposed to arrive with a group of his most competent spellslingers to help break this stalemate. I don't know what's holding up their arrival, and that worries me. If you were at all inclined to lend a hand, we could use some arcane support on our side. I could lend a hand? Could you? I knew that Tunon's agent wouldn't fail us in a time of need. I'll mark the last known site of our Earthshaker reinforcements on your map. Good hunting, Fateinder. Why do you think the siege has been delayed for so long? It should have been over real quick and simple. The first cohort arrived in the valley and went right for the kill. But that was before we knew the Vendrian Guard had sages and that Water Witch on their side. A bigger problem is the Scarlet Chorus. They eagerly conscript the Vendrian Guard, but I have no proof of this. But it seems they do very little to keep a watchful eye on these drafted tiersmen. They're often sent out on patrol, and we suspect they use that opportunity to escape back to the Vendrian Guard. Every chorus conscript has a choice: life under Kyros or death under the army's boots. By all means, feel free to cut down those who choose the latter. We won't be offended. Just so we don't mistake each other, I know what I'm saying carries an implication of treachery. I'm not making a formal accusation before Tunon's agent. I'm just voicing my gut feeling on the matter. The two armies haven't worked well together in years. Why do you think that is? Come on, Binder. Seems like asking why beasts stink. The disfavored are only too eager to deliver Kyros' peace to the tiers, while the Scarlet Chorus brings only mayhem in their wake. You can tell me the Voices of Narot has a plan, and I'll take your word for it. But the Chorus sure seem to blunder around, never moving with purpose as we do. I wonder if we've been fighting the same war, soldier. I've seen Ash yank his precious soldiers away from more battles than he's won. If you want to call that progress, be my guest. Unless we find a way to work as one, I feel that the Scarlet Chorus will step up in front of Graven Ash's strategies at every turn. As far as I'm concerned, it seems like the Voices of Narot is here to amuse himself, while the rest of us are here to do our job. Tell me about yourself. Not much to tell. My father was Sivus the Elder. His father was Sivus the First of his name, lead drill master of Ash's first Iron God, back when they were the Bronze God. I was born into the Legion, and, with any hope, I'll die in the Legion. The rest you will hopefully hear about when the storytellers immortalize me. Because we have Lore 39, we have this option here. He was in the Bronze Guard. So your family must have been with Ash since before he was with Kyros. Aye, you know your history. Service nods with gusto. The blood goes back that far. Not the memories, as I only ever knew my father. My grandfather was just a legend. One of Ash's best warriors back before the disfavored were reforged in iron. He shrugs. I'm proud of my heritage, but I try not to brag. There are folks who love the Legion every bit as much as I do, but they lack the same pedigree. Speaking of heritage, how is your family looking these days, Barrack? Are they still the pride of the North, or have they debased themselves in some unspeakable manner? Speak not of my family, Verse, or of our honor. You have no right. She chuckles. Don't I? Very well. Go about your ignorant way, you dumb ironclad. I'll say no more. The disfavored soldier observes the exchange with interest and aims an unspoken question at Barrack before shrugging. You should be proud of your own pedigree. Thanks, but I try not to think about it too fondly. If anything, every time I screw something up, I wish I wasn't dragging the family name through mud along with me. Alright, so we've got a new quest here, Earthshaker Reinforcements. Very good. We've got Bitterquip here. Back again. Bitterquip looks you up and down, his face unamused. Have you so little to do besides standing around the disfavored camp? Okay, we've already talked to him. Who else can we talk to here? Lucia and Marcus we've already talked to. Can we go inside here still? Apparently we can. I wonder who's inside. Is Ash still in here? He is. The Archon of War lets out a long sigh as he surveys the maps and models splayed about his desk. He glances over his shoulder, making brief eye contact with you, furrows his brow, and turns back to his contemplation. How did I do this guy's voice again? The first time you proclaimed an edict, you gave the enemy a suspicious amount of time to ready themselves. I chalk it up to excessive mercy for a backwater's people. But when the edict is against your kin, that order you follow to the letter. May we speak a moment? I tire of all this endless prattle. I am the Archon of War, and the Overlord has decreed battle. If you wish to help, go speak with my soldiers. Return when you have done something useful. The Archon of War pounds the haft of his maul against the ground. Oh, well, I guess that's it then. He wasn't a fan of us proclaiming that edict. To be fair, we did kind of delay it, in as much as we let the Archon of War and the Archon of Secrets prattle on for far too long, apparently. Here's Isotanis here. Let's talk to Isotanis. Isotanis curses the air as a blade of thin iron breaks in half beneath his hammer. Repairing weapons with scrap isn't exactly why I got into this craft, but our supplies are spent. He wipes the sweat from his brow and gets a better look at you. Why not forge bronze? Bronze will do in a pinch, don't get me wrong. It can take a beating and get bent back into shape, unlike this stubborn iron we have here. He glances at a pile of his work with dread. And we always have plenty of tin and copper lying around, so supplies aren't the problem. It's a rare smith who can churn out military-grade bronze consistently. More often than not, it comes out soft. Look around camp. We're garbing the Legion head to toe in iron because it's cheaper and easier to produce for the masses. Couldn't do that with bronze. He looks Barrack up and down. Of course, some of us do go overboard from time to time. They call the disfavored the Iron Legion for a reason. Strategy and skill may be our backbone, but our claws are made of iron. The good stuff that comes from the smiths in Levian Crossing. You mentioned an iron shortage. I'm afraid so. The last shipment sent down the Matani went missing near Echo Call Crossing, and I'm afraid we won't be seeing any more now that the valley is sealed. Forge-bound iron is Tunon's responsibility. Why is this the first I'm hearing of it? Keep your voice down. Isotanis flinches and lowers his own. Graven Ash doesn't want to cause a panic or pass any information to the Vengeance Guard. Best case scenario, the iron tumbled off a boat and is resting on a riverbed. Worst case, it ends up in enemy hands. I've been instructed to aid an operation in Echo Call. I'll keep an eye out for your shipment. I appreciate that, as does the Great General. More than you might guess. Maybe he isn't quick to offer his thanks to outsiders, but I know he'll be grateful for your help. It'll be a boon to the war effort if our iron was recovered. You can trust me to handle this. I knew that Tunon wouldn't have dispatched you without good reason. The court isn't exactly known for gambling when the stakes are high. He glances to a crate beside him and points to a small set of notches on the wood. You see that? That is how we tell apart our iron shipments from the rest. Inconspicuous, so people don't go snooping around. You'll want to keep your eye out for these. Good hunting. Alright, new quest received, Forge-bound iron. Speaking of looking at boxes. Hello, I'll take that, thank you. Does the Iron Marshal have anything more to say to us? The edict draws near. Preparations are almost complete, but we aren't moving fast enough. Hey! She looks past you. yelling at a soldier far afield. I said round up those javelins! Not a suggestion! She folds her arms, looking at you expectantly. Oh, we already talked about this. Okay, I think that's everything here then. We've got our extra quests now. Let's go ahead and speak to each member of our party before we leave, though, to see if there's anything more they want to say.
At your service, Fateinder.
Verse bows with an added flourish.
What do you need?
Nope, doesn't want to talk about anything. I don't know why it says she does.
My Lord Binder, you have something which requires my attention?
Oh, my Lord Binder, huh? He's happy. Barak salutes as he turns to greet you.
What can I do for you?
We'll talk later. Alright, how about Lantry? Lantry stops his stride, darting his hands about his bandolier and belt as he softly mouths off a mental inventory of his inks and quills. When at last assured his possessions are in place, he looks up at you with a smile. What might I do for you? If you're going to be traveling with me, I need to know more about you. An understandable request. Let's see. Born in Sunder. No kids. What few longings of fatherly love I've got in my heart are satisfied by taking care of carrier birds. Learned my sigils and spells about 30 years back. Being able to defend myself has opened a life of field study. Haven't grown tired of the wandering just yet. I've written on all manner of subjects. Magic, birds, language, geometry. But my main focus has been chronicling. And I find there's no finer pursuit than recording the events of our times. There will always be legends of what happened. Someone ought to make note of the real thing. I don't know why all my voices eventually turn into Southerners. I'm Southern U.S. people. I don't know. Aside from that, I don't know. I practice centering stance, draw portraits, make my own inks, and have a sharp aversion to autobiography. I'm about as boring as watching coral grow. How'd you wind up here in Vendrian's Well? When the Vellum Citadel was set aflame by Kyros' edict, I fled as fast as my knees would carry me. Every direction seemed a bad idea, but heading to Vendrian's Well seemed the least suicidal option. Mind you, I was laboring under the misconception that the Vendrian god had surrendered, and the fighting in the valley had stopped. Looking first at his left arm, and then his right, he reads through the assorted notes inked across his skin. Yes, 7th of sparring. That's when I crossed the mountains. That would be 2 days? 3 days after the Vendrian god jettisoned their surrender and claimed the citadel in the valley. The Vendrian god nabbed me and several other sages moving through the valley. The other sages were sympathetic to the Vendrian god. As for me, I just agreed so as not to get everyone killed. I think defying the Overlord is a really slow and stupid form of suicide. Tell me about your work with the Oathbreakers. The Vendrian god has several noble-born in their ranks, and they know their letters. Problem is, they've come from noble houses scattered across the realms, each with their own private script. That's where the sages and I come in. Between us, we're familiar enough with all the regional scripts to translate and coordinate. But translating is child's play, so I might have helped out a bit more. The old citadels at the center of the valley is a crumbling affair, and there's no time for proper construction. Seemed a crime not to put my magic to work. What else did you learn of their plans in your time there? It won't surprise you to know that their strategy is largely non-existent. They cling to the hope that their example will inspire others in the tiers to come to the valley and join their cause.
The recent inaction between the Archons has emboldened them. Some even think that the Archons fear the Vendrian god. I'm sure they have it quite wrong.
What else can you tell me about the Oathbreakers and their forces?
Vendrian gods surrendered back in 429, and while a lot of them were conscripted in the chorus, 3 of the leaders, Captains Ari, Matani, and Florian, never turned themselves in. Instead, they hid in the valley, gathering up what resources they could until they could challenge the local garrison. At highest count, earlier in the year, they number over 400, their ranks swollen by soldiers of Haven and Azure that survived the war. They are a dying breed, these Oathbreakers. Most in the tiers have finally come to realize that Kyros has already won. And before you ask, as connoisseur of the inevitable, I have made my peace with the Overlord and bow to his might.
So you provided military aid to the Oathbreakers.
When the servant of the Archon of Justice asks me that question, I can't help but assume it is the antecedent to some sort of punishment. I can't deny that I assisted the Oathbreakers, but their alternative was to starve in a cell and maybe lose my head. I realize this is an offense to the Overlord, but it's not like I increased their odds of winning in any significant way.
So you're an expert with fortifications.
Hardly, but I am an expert on preservation magics. The same cantrips we use at the School of Ink and Quill to preserve our manuscripts against worms and decay are in principle as applicable to stone as they are to parchment, plus or minus some improvisation.
I accept that what he was doing because he wanted to survive. But we've also been one to deliver the laws of Kyros and his edicts. Intent matters. You were doing what you needed to survive.
Well, I trust my future actions will show I mean to be of service, not a source of problems.
How did you wind up a prisoner of the chorus?
I had to send some missives, and that meant getting to a clearing where my terns and doves might find me. The patrol with me was ambushed by the Scarlet Chorus. I tried to flee the scene, but some youngster tackled me, and well, out of one fire into another. That's been a running theme this year.
Let me ask about something else. Tell me about your magic.
Oh, I don't much like to brag about things like that.
You got loyalty too with him. I'm not asking you to brag. I'm asking you to tell me what you can do.
My major areas of focus have been preservation, concealment, and healing. Arts that have served me well in this newfound life as a peripatetic.
Peripatetic? Okay, that word. Peripatetic. Peripatetic?
Prey animal.
That's a new word I've never seen before. And I've seen a lot of words.
The sages study all kinds of magic, but as a chronicler, I wanted magic that would help me see more, archive more, protect objects of historical value. Seeing as I feel like an old relic in need of some protection, my skills suit me well.
Can you teach me anything?
Sure. I can show you how to blend your own inks, train birds to think you're their mom, how to turn a goat into parchment. But I'm sure you prefer to learn some magic. If the School of Ink and Quill still mattered, I might maybe be more tight-lipped, but If we're going to travel together, you should know how to mend wounds, especially if I'm killed. I know the edict still looms, but if you have a few hours, I could show you the basics of healing magic. Or at least, how I learned it.
I would be honored to learn a little of what you know. Rummaging through his satchels, the sage produces a long quill and a crumpled piece of parchment. With 7 quick strokes of the quill, he inks a pattern on the page.
We'll start with first principles. When mending wounds and easing pain, we invoke the magic of the orphan midwife, Archon of Rebirth. By invoking her sigil, we channel her mastery, however briefly, through our hands. Now, trace the sigil, following the lines in the order I sketched them.
What can you tell me about this Archon of Rebirth?
Didn't realize you gave a care about your history. Well, the orphan midwife was born in 160, bowed to Kyros in 201. They say where she walked, plants would sprout. The sick would grow vigorous. She'd also send most folks into fits of rage and animals into heat. She sounds like quite a riot. We know her magic by way of one of her first disciples who migrated to the Tiers in 222 to spread her wisdom, an act that happened to be illegal under Kyros' law. For that and a host of other transgressions, the orphan midwife has been imprisoned for over a century, or so the story goes. Since this isn't your first cantrip, I'll move a little quickly, but I think you can keep up.
Lantry walks you through countless repetitions of the signing of the mystic sigil. For hours, you wave your hand in the air to no effect until at last you sign the pattern in the air and feel a rush of power through your veins.
And so if you need to heal pain, as opposed to purge an infection, you move your hand like so. But you know, that's enough for now. I think the rest you can figure out on your own.
Tell me about the sages.
For hundreds of years, the sages have been devoted to the collection and preservation of knowledge. We're scholars, bookmakers, archivists, and students of the mystic and the mundane alike. The wisest of our guild, not that I truly belong in that category, are versed in sigils and spellcraft. Or at least, that's how it used to be. With the destruction of the Vellum Citadel, the sages have been scattered to the winds. There were once more sages than I could name. Many have died, who have been taken prisoner by Kyros' forces.
What do you know of the Vellum Citadel? Lantry scowls. His writing hand becomes unusually still.
I once felt a rush of pride at that name. Now it's a blight on our reputation.
Lantry clears his throat, reasserting a smile.
The Vellum Citadel was a beautiful sanctuary of parchment and ink. We'd amassed knowledge from the Northern Empire to the coast of the Tiers. It would take a score of lifetimes to learn all the Citadel could teach you. But the sages in charge of the Vellum Citadel thought themselves above Kyros' rules. The Overlord learned the sages were copying and spreading lies and forbidden knowledge. Kyros put an end to life at the Citadel with his Edict of Fire.
Lantry stops, putting a hand to his face.
All that knowledge set aflame. When we bind books, we bind them to last. Our most important tombs were warded against fire and so many other maladies.
Lantry scowls.
So many of the books remain intact as the shelf and floor melt away. I suppose it's still there, if you want to brave danger and certain death for it. There is good reason they call it the Burning Library now.
He shrugs. Who leads the school?
I keep learning more names of those who died during the Edict of Fire, so my information could be obsolete. But with Sage Krevnik incinerated, Save Renata would be the current provost. And if she dies, well, fuck. Thanks to all the recent deaths, maybe I'll be next in line. Let's archive that away under things to worry about later. In truth, there isn't much guild left to lead. Our library fortress is in ashes, our membership in disarray, and it doesn't help that we have something of a spotty reputation here in the tiers. Fear of magic being something of a local specialty.
What's your role in the guild?
I'm one of the chief writers of the Chronicle. It's our attempt to record the truth of all things in their proper sequence. It's the ongoing life work of generations of sages, and I have the honor of witnessing history and having my vantage point be a matter of record.
The sages would not bow to Kyros, yet you do.
True. My peers can grasp many abstract concepts, but on the subject of hopeless wars, their stupidity rises to idiotic splendor. The sages believe themselves the mightiest magical guild in the tiers, and they could even back that claim. But they mistook being the best for being a match for Kyros. How is it so many can study so much history and learn so little? I've studied Kyros and the Archons in great detail, enough so that I'm no longer blinded by fear of their magic, nor by envy of their special gifts. To my mind, it seems like nonsense to bow to a mere king or queen when one could serve Kyros, the living embodiment of rulership.
And that's that.
Indeed, I have a finite appetite for discussing myself, and I'm more than sated. Let's press onward.
All right. We've got a reputation ability unlocked, Lantry loyalty ability, Wheel of Ages. Let's see here. And we've learned a new spell core, the Sigil of Life. Excellent, excellent. What is the Wheel of Ages? The Fatebinder and Lantry work together to create a slowing aura around a party member. Forces within range of the aura are slowed. When party members move inside the aura, they will have their hostile effects suspended. Interesting. Nice little clearing ability there for us. I like it. All right, well, we've got ourselves a nice introduction to Lantry. We've also got a couple more quests here. And no doubt, as we travel to the next area, we'll be taking care of some more issues along the way. Remember, we only have 7 days left before Kyros' edict comes to pass, and we either live or die. What will happen? Find out next time. Hey everyone, J Square John Jeremy here, and I want to thank you for watching. Check out another video from yours truly, or take a look at the playlist for this series. If you haven't done so already, click on the logo to subscribe and keep track of this channel. Until next time, so long, and take care.